this love train that I feel like a cloud. For this love train, anybody got?
And welcome to All the Way Live with the Love Byrds. I am, of course, one half of the dynamic duo. I go by the name of Dr. James Byrd, and along with me, my lovely and talented, beautiful wife. As y'all some say, you ride or die. How about ride or live? She goes by the name of
Dr. Angel Byrd.
And together we are
The Love
Byrds. And we are glad to be with you this Friday evening. Well, I think we're going to, we want to start out by just saying hello to everyone. And maybe just sharing a little bit about our impromptu vacation last week that caused us to miss last week's episode. I hope y'all missed us. We missed doing this. And so go ahead and tell the people what you were doing last Friday and last week that you were not able to do the show.
Were you not with me? No, I'm just were you not there?
Was I?
We were in Dallas, and it was so needed, and it was a bittersweet vacation, and we can explain later.
Later, like when?
I don't know, throughout the show. Who knows?
No, if you want to explain, we explain now.
Well, we were invited. Got a call on a Tuesday, had to be on the plane on a Wednesday, cordially invited by the White House to come to a round table for racism. So when we get there, the president comes out, we're in the room, everything, and we think we're really getting ready to go in. It's going to be all about dealing with racism and dealing with what's going on in the world. And I was so disappointed because that's not what he did. And so I think that's enough of that. And after that, after I recovered from being in the session, we had an amazing time.
All right. Well, I'm glad you did have an amazing time.
I did. Some good food.
It was the first time out. Basically almost out of the house in 3 months.
3 months. First time eating out over 3 months. And so it was different. It was like, oh my God, where all these people come from? Because Texas was completely opened.
And it was so interesting to see this flip in my wife that this coronavirus quarantine has caused. And what I mean by flip is prior to COVID-19, my wife was the type of person that drew energy from being around lots of people and being around people and what's going on, what's happening. And so all of a sudden, we found this new spot just outside of Dallas with this huge lake area with some entertainment and food. And so we're outside eating, and there are people all showing up all along the water and getting ready for entertainment. And she looks over and she's like, we need to get out of here. There's too many people. There's too many people.
I'm ready to go home.
Now she wants to be away from people, but she always drew energy from being around people. So it was pretty interesting to see that flip in my wife.
Yes, because that's how quickly the mind could be reconditioned. Because like you said, I drew life. I am so relational. But after almost over 3 months of being in this house and seeing not hardly any people, and then you go see hundreds of people in one place, and so now you got to deal with all the thoughts and all the things, and you don't know these people, and COVID and all of that kind of stuff. So it's like this staying in the house stuff, it may have protected some of us, but it's not mentally healthy.
I would agree.
It's not mentally healthy because it changes you.
I can't wait till we can get back to some sense of normalcy.
Yeah.
Will it ever go back to the way it was? Probably. Who knows? I'm no Notre Dame, I can't tell you that. But one thing I can tell you is that whether we're in quarantine or whether we're, hanging out, we're still married and we're still doing relationships.
Yeah.
And so we still need to know how to do relationships and how to make relationships work. And so I'm excited to be back and to be talking about marriage and talking about relationships. So, while we're getting ready to get started, go ahead and invite someone, share this,
Stop right now and push your button because there's marriages really, really hurting. We've gotten so many phone calls, so much information. about the pain that marriages are in right now. So please just hit a button. You don't know who marriage you may save at that moment by just hitting the button.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you to all our faithful listeners. We've been getting a lot of feedback from so many people that are listening that we didn't even know were listening. Please let us know if you're listening, because that blesses us and encourages us to continue to do this. Because listen, we're not doing this for a check. We're not doing this for money. We're doing this because we care about marriages.
Yeah.
You know, and so if you're listening, let us know, and that makes us excited to continue to do it, continue to provide it. We want to be faithful with this, but we only want to do it if it's helping.
Yeah,
you know?
only if it's helping.
If it's not helping, listen, I have other things that I could be doing with my time, like trying to make this woman happy. You know what I'm saying? Come on, can I, any man out there, you know what I'm saying? Happy wife? Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Perfect
about.
life.
How about that? Happy wife, perfect life. Man, I'm trying to figure that one out every day. I used to fight that. I used to fight that years ago, you know, and when I say I used to fight that, meaning like, you know, there's some sense of believing that, okay, well then, just whatever she says, I'm just going to go with that, and whatever however she wants to do, and I'm just going to go with that, and you know, that's a little weak right there. So I'm not saying happy life, happy wife in that sense of being with, but you know, for the most part, if you can do enough good, you can make her happy, and you're going to be okay. But
Just be nice.
yeah, women, just be nice. Thank you. Good job. Way to go. We're not just impromptu, just at the spur of the moment. She challenged the women that listen to us. Just be nice. Man, there ain't nothing I won't do for a nice woman. For my nice woman. Let me clear that up.
Hurry up. No,
For my nice woman, ain't nothing I won't do. So women, just be nice.
Men,
and
be
when we're
nice.
talking about it, men, be nice too. How about that? All right, so what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about a word that you may not hear a lot when we're talking about relationships and marriage. Word is called attunement. You see it there in the title of today's show, attunement. And let me just give you a kind of a definition of the word attunement. But what we're going to do is we're going to use an acronym for the letters of attunement, and share some truths that will help you in your relationship. And we don't rehearse this, so let me let y'all know, we don't rehearse this. Well, I have information that we want to talk about, but we like to just flow from the abundance of our heart, from the abundance of our studies, and the abundance of our over 20 years of counseling married couples and things like that. And we like this stuff to be fresh for those that are listening or those that are going to go back and view this. So attunement is the reactiveness we have to another person. So you might have heard, he's just not in tune with me, or she's just not in tune with me. So attunement is the reactiveness we have to another person. Like when we're doing a show, when I'm talking, my wife is not attuned into me because she's trying to attune into other things that's not where I want her at while we're doing this show.
Okay,
but
I'm here.
That's just an example of what attunement is.
I am present.
Present, that's very good.
Present.
Being present. The process by which we form relationships. So this has everything to do with how we form relationships. Think about it. If you just met somebody, in the dating process, and y'all were at a small group gathering, or maybe y'all went out on a date, or y'all were at church or whatever, and every time y'all kind of got around each other, and one began to talk, and the other one just was like not paying any attention. Didn't seem to be present. Didn't seem to be in tune with him. Do you think it's possible that some relationship is going to form out of that?
I mean, no. I mean, it's not. And plus, you're gonna either irritate or make the other person feel like you're not here with me, and why do we even waste our time? Why do we come here? Especially how many couples we see when we go out to eat that don't even talk to each other the whole entire time. I'm like, I could have stayed home and ate. And so, or they're on their phones the whole time. If we go on a date, can we get to a place where we can just be okay unless one of our kids' emergency is something and you know the difference, and just be okay without feeling like it's like something is pulling you, like it's an addiction that pulls you to say where you can't even barely stay in the date. And so we got to make some adjustments, and I'm even working on that one.
So, you're not going to, so that's what it says, it's part of establishing a relationship. So you're not going to be able to establish a relationship if you're not in tune with each other. So, first thing I think about before we even get into the acronym of the attunement is, people that are married, at some point early on in their relationship, they were present, they were attuned to one another, they were in tune, they were in sync, they were into one another. But now, 5, 10, 2 years later, whatever, we're married, and they're out on a date, like you said, out to dinner, and they don't seem to be in tune with one another. So that means that the attunement has fallen off in a relationship. And so, listen, come on, wake up, wake up. Think about the word together. In a relationship, we are two people that are together, that have become one. And if you break up the word, the spelling of the word together, T-O-G-E-T-H-E-R, to get her. Together, you break it up, is to get her. So man, whatever you did to get her, that's what you got to do to keep y'all together.
Okay, fine.
Let it bang up, girl. So that's part of being attunement. What's going on with those? Okay, that's part of being attunement. So together, that helps us establish relationships. When we attune with others, we allow our own internal state to shift. Did you catch that?
Yes.
To come to resonate with the inner world of another. Come on. Come on. Listen to that. So real attunement is not just where I want you to be in tune with me and my world and my ways, and I want you to change and graft yourself into my way and the way I like it, my ways, things like that. Real attunement means that, our state of being begins to shift as we resonate with the inner workings of another person. And you got to get to know a person, you got to get to know how a person's wired and things like that, so that you can shift with that. I've talked to people, that are not married, not in relationships, that have failed in relationships, and now they're looking to get in other relationships, and they say, I want to find a woman, I want to find a good woman, but, she's going to have to be able to accept me like I am. Okay. There's some truths to that, but there's some not truths to that.
Absolutely.
Okay. And when I say accept me where I am, meaning you don't want anybody just trying to change everything about you.
Absolutely.
Because you can't change everything about a person. They're wired a certain way.
Yeah.
Right? But take for example, if my wife does not like to argue, and I've grown up in a world where I have to be able to get my point across to survive. That's the way me and my friends roll. That's the way me and my family roll. That's the way we roll. And debating and trying to get your point across is the way you've grown up and you're wired. And so now, that's the way I just express how I feel and try to get you to understand me. But if that drives you and turns you and drives you away from me, then me saying, well, you just got to set me where I am, that's foolish.
Yeah.
That's foolish. Because if you find somebody like you, eventually y'all two gonna drive each other crazy wanting to do that all the time.
Absolutely.
So you have to be able to make concessions.
Yeah.
At some times you have to give me the opportunity to explain myself or whatever. I use my hands.
I'm like, the people think you're beating me.
That's fine.
They're in the car and you're using your hands and doing this, you're hurting me.
She'd be so worried about what a stranger who don't even know us thinks. We drive down the street, and I'm driving, I'm like, hey, whatever, she's like, stop using your hands while you're talking. People gonna think you're yelling at me. They're gonna think you're mad at me or whatever. I'm like, who cares about what they think? But that's just something sometimes I have to sit on my hands, because sometimes you don't like that or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that, making adjustments and concessions to be in tune with one another, because listen, what you want is for you all to be able to communicate effectively.
Yes, unity.
And so
love one for another.
if you don't make some concessions, then what you're going to find yourself doing is not being able to communicate deep things, and every time you get frustrated, you're just going to go to your corners.
Absolutely. And you drift. That drift syndrome takes place because you just like, who else can I talk to? you know, and you find yourself on the phone laughing and talking to people and everything, and you got your love tank filled up. Don't mean you want them,
Right.
but it's full. So now we don't even got to talk, you know, and that's ridiculous in a marriage. It's like all those things you're seeking out for someone else. Try to restore it back with your husband or your wife, so you guys you spend more time with your spouse than anybody. So don't you? You should. So don't you want to be able to communicate where you can at least have some kind of fun and be in a relationship, to be able to talk about deep, meaningful things? That would drive me crazy if I couldn't, and there was times where I felt like I couldn't, and that's not how I'm wired. And so it's like, oh God, you know. So
Listen, she said a word in there as she was giving that little talk right there. She said restore, and when she said it, I just feel so many couples out there.
Yeah.
You need to really take this season to work on restoring your relationship. I know you're still married. I know you haven't gotten a divorce. You got a family. You've been going 10 years, 15 years, 20. But man, y'all together, but y'all not together.
yeah.
Y'all just living like roommates. Y'all have legal sex because you're married and you can, and you don't have it that often. You know, listen, begin to look to restore the relationship, and you got to be able to have some of these difficult conversations, and you got to be able to make concessions, and you got to be able to change. And don't go saying that, well, that's how I was when I met her. Listen, you ain't the same and she ain't the same.
No.
People change. You change, you grow, you mature, things get different, you change. So get into it with this new person, even though they're not new, the new them. That makes sense?
Yes.
All right, so now we're going to talk about the acronym. So the first letter of attune is the letter A. And for the letter A, we're going to talk about awareness. Okay? So awareness is the knowledge or perception of, concern about, well-informed interest in someone. So are you, in your relationship, are you aware of your spouse? Are you showing it? Are you showing that interest? Are you showing that you're concerned about them, about what they want, what they need, what makes them happy, their moods that they're in, that they're not in? Awareness. Do you have a knowledge of it? You know.
Like women, a lot of times we say things like, can you even see me? Like, do you even know me? You know, to me, that's a part of awareness. Are you aware of something about me that you can even comment on? Because a lot of us women like that. I'm sure men do, men do too, or whatever. But awareness to me is acknowledgement, verbal as well. It's not just, I'm aware that you're in a room with me. That doesn't make me feel like you are aware of what's happening with us.
Details, awareness of details.
Yes,
absolutely. And in my relationship, and early on, for many years in my relationship, my awareness level of certain things, a lot of things about my wife, was nowhere near up to par, because the way I'm wired is, it doesn't take much to make me happy. Mm-hmm. Like if I go into a store and I'm thirsty and I want to get some water, it doesn't have to be a certain brand. At least in the past, it didn't have to be. Now it has to be at least 8.5 or whatever. Or it's got to go down smooth or whatever. But for so long, it didn't have to be a certain type of water. It didn't have to be a certain type of chips. It doesn't matter. I just kind of how I was wired. So because I was wired like that I didn't really care so much about the details in a lot of things. Then I didn't focus on a lot of the details about her, and so she thought, she almost thought I didn't care about her because I didn't focus on the details about her. But it wasn't that I didn't care about her; it was that's just how I was wired. Now I just didn't focus on details because I didn't focus on details of me on a lot of certain things. There's always something, I'm detailed as far as neat. I'm detailed about where everything needs to be and things like that. But certain things I wasn't really detailed on. And so once, I can say once after so many years, and she finally, got it in through my head, and I started to mature a little bit to understand that that's important to her. Understanding that, go in there and get me some essential water, and preferably not ice cold. When you go and order my sandwich and I tell you what I want, if I forgot to say a certain type of bread, you remember to say the certain type of bread because I want it on gluten-free bread. If I ask for a salad and I forgot to text you in because I always say, because I don't want to get her stuff wrong. Oh man, I'm not saying that when I get her stuff wrong, she ain't pleasant, but I just don't want to get her stuff wrong. That's all I'm saying. And so I'm like, text me what you want. And so when I come back, I'm like, you didn't say that in the text or whatever. But you should know or whatever. I'm not detailed. So now I'm gotta learn the details. So if she don't ask for, romaine and I don't want no iceberg lettuce, I should have heard that enough times when we're sitting at a restaurant. No iceberg lettuce, So I have to start picking up on the details. So that's awareness. Are you aware?
Yeah.
Are you in tune? Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm saying, yeah, I'm aware.
Okay, this one of them times, so remember I told y'all watching this, I thought they yelled at me, she was trying to double dutch, she was trying to get in. Oh, she was feeling her brother. All right.
Yeah.
All right, so that's awareness, all right? The next letter in the tune is T. For T, we're going to say turning towards, all right? Turning towards. And you can go a lot of places with this, but because one of the things that, as I spoke earlier about what she said about restoring relationships, one of the problems that's going on in a lot of relationships is that they're not turning towards one another.
Yeah.
And listen, I used to have that, I used to struggle with that in conflict because I don't mind debating and try to get my point across, and you can try to get your point across, and we can go back and forth, tit for tat. That don't bother me. After a while, it bothers her. Okay, that don't bother me. But it bothers me if you look like you angry, or you look like you're upset, or you start saying things that are strong or whatever, something like that. That bothers me. And at that time, I'm not wanting to come towards you. I'm wanting you to cool off. I'm wanting to give you a space. I'm wanting you to, pray, go let the Holy Spirit deal with you, so that when we come back.
But not knowing that if he would have backed off back then, there wouldn't have been an irritation, and there wouldn't have been, I can't do this, And it's like, that's what we have to stop doing too, as seeing things just from our perspective.
That's so big.
And from our side. It's like you going in, getting your point, debate, that ain't me. Debating is like, oh. And so if I'm becoming uncomfortable.
This is good. I wish I had a bell to ring when she said, this is good because I just seen this so clearly. I can be a debating type person. She's not a debating type person because her personality is more, do what I say. She's more of an in-charge type person. The oldest of 9, wired to run her brothers and sisters and things like that.
Business,
whatever. So she's a do what I say person. She's not a back and forth. So where I have to learn to not to debate or whatever, she has to learn to allow other people's opinions and things like that or whatever. So she's not a debate. So that I used to say forever, I was like, you think you can just say whatever you want to say, but I can't just say what I want to say, because that was her high D. That's how she was wired or whatever. And so that just didn't make sense to me, but it makes sense as I start to know, as I turn towards her more and get to know how she's wired and things like that. And so now that doesn't mean that I'm going to allow her just to say whatever she want to say, and I don't get to say no, that ain't never gonna happen. If you know me, that ain't never gonna happen.
Oh, we know.
But I'm not gonna fight her for it. I will just explain. You got a better chance for your relationship explaining than fussing and fighting. So I was like, hold on, wait a minute. Okay, now you're getting into that high D. You're getting into that where you're trying to boss this thing. You're trying to order, and that's fine. That works out in a lot of ways. But right here, I don't need that.
I used to always say, "Oh, you want it to work for you when it works for you."
Yep,
But
yep.
then when you don't want it being done to you, then now we got, and it was like, okay, which one do I do today?
And that is so key. I need a lot of women to hear that today, because we're living in a time now where women they're in the workplace, they're supervisors, managers, CEOs, bosses. And listen. When you come home in your marriage, your husband don't want a supervisor. Where my amen corner at?
It's not here.
Oh, okay. your husband don't want a manager.
Not here.
He don't want a CEO. Come on, I hear some men out there saying it's tight but it's right. He don't want that. So you got to be able to turn that off and allow. And we see that in relationships sometimes. And when it goes on for too long, the man just throws in a towel.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, now all of a sudden when you want my input and I don't give it, you mad at me. And you say, he don't never have no input. But yeah, it's because you don't never want me to have one, because you always got, you know what I'm saying? So you got to turn that side. If that's you, listen, being honest with yourself. That's what we're all about in this show, is being honest. Be honest with yourself. If you know that's how you are, then we learn how to work on it.
Yeah.
Learn how to turn that down when you come home and allow him to turn. He may not be the supervisor at work. He may be the low man on the totem pole at work. But when he come home, you can't make him be the low man on the totem pole.
Yeah, you have to be able to adjust and repair every single
You saw
day.
my face got look when I said
I
that?
don't know what's wrong with you.
You can't make him be the low man on the totem pole. You see what I look when I said that?
What makes you rile up?
You can't do that. So we got to turn towards each other, and we got to really get in tune, turn towards. Stop turning. Oh, here we go. Turn towards your spouse and stop turning towards your BFF.
That's really good. If you turn more towards your spouse, then maybe they can really become your BFF. How about that?
Bam! Love it. All right. Next is there's 2 T's in a tune. So that was the first T. The second T is tolerance. Tolerance. Tolerance is the capacity to endure continued subjection from someone. So it's endurance. This is a difficult word in relationships because we don't want to be tolerant.
We want to be tolerant to the world.
Yeah.
And we want to I'm going to respect their beliefs and I'm going to be tolerant to whatever decision they make, but then come in your house and just raise hell. You have no tolerance. You have no compassion, no empathy, but we got it for everybody and we follow the rules outside of our house.
Yeah. And you got to learn to exercise tolerance in your marriage. Listen, and when I talk about this tolerance, one of the reasons why you have a problem with it is because the first thing you think about is, I don't want to have to keep putting up with this. Well, wait a minute. What about what they putting up with?
Yeah.
That's one of the problems. We only see what we got to put up. We only see the flaws in our spouse that we got to tolerate, that we got to put up with. Like you don't have flaws too. Yeah. Like they ain't tolerating something about you.
That's like a man telling the woman, I need you to lose weight, but they have a big old stomach or a big, you know what I'm saying? But they have no intentions on changing, but they got an issue because that's not what they signed up for. That right there always blows me away. And I'm just thinking like, so I'm supposed to just accept and adapt to something that I don't like either, because normally we don't talk about that with the men. Or whatever. So
most women don't.
Most women, but yeah, most women.
Tolerance. So
he signs a document. No.
Tolerance is you got to have some level of tolerance in the man. I'm not sitting up here telling you that you just got to tolerate any and everything. He's cheating on me, just tolerate it.
No.
He's beating on me. Listen, I'm never talking about that kind of foolishness. If you new to the show, I'm saying this for you. If you've been around us for a while, I'm never talking about that kind of foolishness. But I'm saying, with all things being equal, you're believers. You're both trying to be the best you in your relationship. You're trying to restore your relationship. You're trying to be in tune with one another. You got to be able to tolerate some. You got to be able to tolerate some things because listen, that's how they're wired.
Yeah.
And you're wired a little different, and so they got to tolerate your differences. You got to tolerate their differences, and then bring them together and make this power couple. That's what we're trying to build. Some power couples out there.
Yeah, man, come join the team.
Tolerance. And then next is you, understanding. Understanding, sympathetically aware of other people's feelings. Are you sympathetically aware of the feelings of your spouse?
Are you?
Man, when you hurt, I hurt.
Oh.
When you hurt, I feel like I can't breathe.
No. You should.
Are you sympathetic to the feelings of your spouse? You should care.
Yeah.
It should matter.
So it's a lot of people who care, but are you able to translate it to the other person where they can feel it?
I'm gonna let you talk about that, and then I'll talk about people that have gotten to a point to where they almost really don't care.
Yeah. So those who still care, are you expressing it in a way that is the love language of your spouse, where they can receive it and they can build from it and they can get life from it? Or do you just say, I said it? I do. Those are the things we say, but do your spouse feel that from you? Do they believe that from you? Because things that people believe, they respond differently.
That's very good.
And so that's where you have to get. It's not about what you think you feel. Have you put it out there for your spouse to feel what you say you feel? That's what needs to happen.
You can't just assume. You just can't assume they feel it. So that means you have to turn towards them. You have to talk about this. You have to say, what is it? I feel like I care about you and your feelings, and when you hurt and when you're sad. I feel like I care, but obviously it doesn't appear that I'm sympathetically showing that. And so what does me showing that I care look like to you? And listen, if that's a man, I say I'm a man, I'm saying that. Don't say you should know. I should just feel it. Don't do that.
That is funny, but explain it, because sometimes you've never told a person, and a person don't know what you're thinking, and sometimes know what your needs are unless you have said it. And so it's okay, even if you told them more than once. Eventually, hopefully, something will click where they will get it. But at least they have to have the opportunity to be told at least once. Yeah.
And I'm gonna leave that alone. You see that? Don't do that. Don't do that. And I started to talk about the other, because there are people that have gotten to the point to where they really don't care. Because they'll tell me. They'll tell you, I don't care.
Yeah. How do you get there? But yeah.
That's a bad place. That's a tough place. You need help.
Yeah.
You need deeper. You're at a place where God can't even receive your prayers.
Yeah. Or you can't even really
forgiveness and bitterness in there
until you open up your heart. Because when you absolutely don't care, that's saying I don't care what you think, I don't care what you feel, and I don't care what nobody say. If you at that place, you've already checked out of the relationship.
You've already checked out, and you need some help.
Yeah, you need some
restoring
help.
That. Listen, and let me tell you something. If you're at that place, with the right help, with the right changes, you can get back to a place of bliss,
absolutely,
of flourishing. You really can. I know it sounds impossible when you're in that state.
Yeah.
I know it seems hopeless.
Yeah, in that state.
I know it feels hopeless. We've been there before. I know it feels hopeless, but we're living proof, and we know hundreds of couples that we've helped are living proof that you can get to a place of flourishing in your marriage after you've been at a place of hopeless despair.
Yeah, because once you hear the other person talking to you and it sounds like they're hearing your pain and they express some form of compassion or empathy, it's something that happens to the heart. It starts to open up. Even if it was to close back in the next, it starts to open up like, man, I'm feeling you. I can relate to you. So you did hear me? You did feel that way? When that kind of stuff starts to happen, then life can change. Start
chiseling away at the ice around that heart.
Absolutely.
That's good. All right, next, non-defensive listening. Non-defensive listening. This is a type of listening that avoids criticism. Listening in a way not to challenge. Because you can get to a place in your relationship that everything your spouse said, because of the way you filter, the way pain has come in over time, that everything they say, that you're looking to challenge it, or you're looking to critique it, instead of just listening.
Absolutely.
You're looking already to respond
Yep.
adversely to it. Instead of just listening
Yeah.
and asking maybe some more questions about it.
Yeah.
Repeating, active. Learn how to be, activist. That's something that most of us all struggle with. Unless that's something you teach and you hear it all the time. Most of us, that's something we struggle with because we're used to having a response ready.
Yeah. And when you have a response already ready and I haven't completed what I'm saying, you heard nothing that I said. And so you think you have, but how do you hear two things at the same time? It's going to be skewed. It's going to be blurry. It's going to be all distorted. When you're trying to hear two things at the time. Okay, what is it? When you're on the phone, you're like, I'm on the phone. Why? Because now I can barely hear the other conversation. So it's the same thing that's happening when you are already ready to give your rebuttal when that other person's not even done. You didn't hear them, and your intentions was not to hear them. It was for you to get your point across and to prove your point.
And you miss a wonderful opportunity to make corrections if the first time they phrased it, it really wasn't the way they really meant it. Mm-hmm. And that's what active listening does. You can repeat. So this is what you're saying, or this is what you're asking me, and then they say, well, no, that's not really what I'm trying to say. And then they can rephrase it. Because a lot of us, I don't say a lot of people, when the first time they say something, so a lot of times it's out of emotion, especially emotional talkers, emotional thinkers. Their mouth gets to moving and their mind is moving in all kinds of directions and they're saying things. And that's not really their best, what they really meant. Mm-hmm. And sometimes if you can give them an opportunity to rephrase, restate, they can slow down and then, deliberate that. And so that's very important. And then the last one is E, empathy.
I've said that a lot of times.
All right, here we go. The ability to understand and share the feelings of someone. You got cognitive empathy, emotional empathy, and compassionate empathy. But we don't go through that. But empathy. Do you have the ability to understand and share the feelings of your spouse? So we kind of did touch on that a little bit earlier, so we don't have to really go in detail about it. But all these things, if you think about the word attune, these are acronyms. I need you to start being more aware of your spouse. I need you to start turning towards your spouse. I need you to be more tolerant of the flaws of your spouse so that they can be tolerant of the flaws in you. I need you to be more understanding of your spouse, sympathetically aware of their feelings. Non-defensive listening, active good listening without critiquing and without challenging, and then being empathetic. Man, if you can do all these things, then you're striving towards being a one in your relationship. This is more of an attuned intimacy. All these things bring about intimacy. Yeah. And listen, men and women, if you get good at these things, then guess what happens? When the music come on, the night the kids go to sleep, you put the sock on the door.
You said the sock.
And you know what time it is. Because any woman that has and all things being equal, has a man that's aware, tolerant, understanding, non-defensive, empathetic.
And nice.
That's intimacy to her.
Yeah.
Nice, that's intimacy to her.
Yeah.
And when you see her in her negligee and you're turned on by looks, she's already turned on by you being attuned to her.
Yep.
Man, I love it. You got anything else you want to share before we're done today?
Nope.
All right. Man, it was so good to be back with you all this week. Again, make sure if you like this, if this is blessing you, I'm sure it will bless many other people as well. Start spreading the word around to other couples. One great way to spread it is easily share it. Mm-hmm. Share information on your page. We're not charging for it or anything like that.
And we're in the moment in the season of unquote Black Lives Matters and and all of that. One thing we have to do as a people is be okay with supporting and helping each other to help the world versus looking at what if somebody else see it on mine and get all that. Like we always talk about systemic racism with other people, other races, but we deal with a lot of it within our own communities based on that crab in the bucket mentality. It's like, why can't we be unified that whatever I can do to help push you to the top, then let's do it. And whatever you can do to help push another marriage to the top, then let's do it. Quit being people where we just sit back and we don't participate in each other's lives. I just really don't think God has set it up that way. And so my goal in life is whatever gifts and talents that God has given me, I want to be able to help as many people with it as possible. Because guess what? None of it belongs to me. I don't have a patent on it. All of it, the heart and love belongs to God. And that's what we need to get.
All right. So again, this has been All the Way Live with the Love Byrds. I'm Dr. James Byrd with my lovely wife,
Dr. Angel Byrd.
And together we are
the Love Byrds.
Hey, we'll see you next Friday night, 6 p.m. Central. Don't forget, hit that share. Hit that share. Hit that share. We're going to dance our way on out of here. Yeah.
Prescription for this love pain. Everybody got it, feel like a for this love pain.